Hello chess homies, I am very excited to bring this video because I just hit a pretty big milestone for myself in my chess journey that I've been on over this past 2 years. So I'm rated 1700 in Blitz. I started in 2019 around like September and was like 600 rated. So I've come a really long way in the past 2 years, and I'm going to go through 10 games covering ratings from 600, like when I started, all the way up until the 1600s, which I just passed through. So I'm super excited to bring you guys that. Just pretty excited in general. One thing that I have noticed about my rating is that I always like dip right before I actually go up. Like it's like I have to take a step back to take two steps forward. It's weird, but it's like this cyclical thing that I've been noticing now that it's happened to me a couple times. So moral of that story, before I pull a game up, is that don't get down if your rating goes down a little bit. A lot of times I feel like that happens right before it goes back up. So there you go. There's my advice on that. Let's get into game one. So for game one, I played d4, realized that I wanted to play d4, and I stuck with it, at least with the white pieces. But I started mixing things up a lot more because I used to play d4 c4. Like that was it. Now I play a lot more d4 systems. Okay, so right away, a really aggressive opening by black. So they accepted the queen's gambit, and on move 6 we have a pin. We have potential capture here. Right now it's defended 3 times, and the pawn is attacked 3 times. But we also have to keep in mind that if the bishop captures this pawn, this knight could come out. This pawn becomes a weakness. Always thinking about recapturing, which is probably what I did. Okay. So I see their logic there in taking and then playing this move here to try to hold on to this pawn. Let's see what happened. Okay. So it looks like I moved the bishop back out. I feel like that's a blunder. And I feel like that's a blunder because, well, let's see. 1, 2, 3. No, look at me. When I was 600, I was counting correctly. This pawn moved up. So that's great. Let's see. Okay. What? Why did they do that? Then they play this move. What? Okay, so in this position, you don't have to trade the queen. You can move it. I mean, you knew it was under attack because you took this piece, unless if you didn't see that the knight was defending it. So, oftentimes, when the dark squared bishop goes out in openings like this, and there's a knight here, it's usually defended. That's why players tend to play this move if they want to prevent something from coming to this square. But yeah, in this position, my opponent should definitely play this. Or if they don't feel like playing that, they could play this. Yeah, or they could move the queen, not there. They could move the queen and, like, yeah. Okay, so... Okay, so very interesting there. Let's go back to what actually happened. And the board changed color because I started analyzing it or whatever. Okay, so now they play this move and we go back. Yeah, I might skip through the rest of this game, just seeing as I'm up a queen, so I don't know how much. And a rook. Did I see it? Okay, and 2 rooks. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to go through the rest of this game. I think my opponent might have even resigned. But yeah, I don't know. I think what it comes down to is just not seeing the knight that was guarding the bishop. All right, game 2. I'm looking at the side thing that says how many mistakes and blunders. Okay. Game 2 in the 700 rating range. Let's see how it goes. D4, D5, C4 takes. Okay. So right off the bat, I would say that this is the first true mistake. Like, the Queen's Gambit accepted is it's a line. It's not considered great. Usually people play Queen's Gambit decline, but this just doesn't look correct. I mean, like, this doesn't do anything yet because of, like, this, but if you take, then you're threatening this, but bishop probably takes. So I guess, like, it's probably not completely losing, but it doesn't seem right to push the D and then the F pawn. But we'll see what happens in the actual game. Okay. Let's see. Oh. That's free. Did I take it? It was free. Okay. So, opponent probably wanted to get, like, a pawn in the position, but didn't see that I could just take the pawn, which is definitely what I should have done there. Could have also taken this pawn, but I played a pawn up. So this is already a very interesting game. Okay. So now I already have a terrible pawn structure. I mean, my opponent's pretty cramped as well. It's kind of hard to develop the light squared bishop. It will be hard to castle king side and queen side. I mean, now that I think about it, all of our pieces are still on the back rank. So let's see. Okay, we have a c5. Very interesting. And then we push. And then did I take en passant? Probably not. Yeah, I did not take. I probably didn't know that that existed. Okay, so I retook on the c4, and then let's see what's going on here. Okay, so trying to break open the position. I mean, I guess because my opponent is only pushing pawns, like, all of their pieces haven't moved. Like, what is actually going? Why did I sack a piece? Why did I sack 2 pieces? What just happened? Okay. Okay. I could have just gone here. Or here, and then here. But instead I took with the knight, and they took with the pawn, then I took, and then took, and then how did I win this? And then I took again. And then we traded queens. Wait, what is going on? This is so suspenseful. What even happened? Okay. Okay. We took, and then we checked, and then we hung the rook, but they didn't see it. Okay, and then we traded rooks, and then jumped back, and then we pushed the pawn. Did I lose this? I lost on time, but I was completely losing. Okay, I lost this game. I thought this was one of the games that I clicked on that it said that I won, but I definitely lost this game on time. I'm looking at the clocks. I'm sorry if I gave anyone false hope. I mean, just look at the mistakes and blunders. I obviously didn't win this game. Okay. On to the next one. Okay, this is slightly more tame. Let's see what's going on here. So d4, c4. The Chigorin defense. And what do we got here? Okay. Alright. Ah, why? Why? Okay. There's no need to put your queen on a diagonal that a bishop that's defended is on. if I want to get rid of the pin that badly, I should put the bishop here. Otherwise, I should explore other move options, which there are better ones in this position. Okay. Okay, let's see. No. This is possible because if you take, you lose. But then I guess it doesn't matter that much because you could just take. Oh, no, you can't just take. You have to move the queen. So if you move the queen here, they can take. And then you could take. Then they could take with check. So that wouldn't be good. You'd probably have to take first, but that's a whole entire mess. And it's a pawn on top of anything else. Oh, and it happened! Oh, this 800 has prep. I fell into this 800's prep. Okay. No! My rook! Did I just lose all of these games? Oh, my rook. Okay, so obviously I lost a rook. And my king is doing a tango. Alright. How did I win this? Did I play this and then this? No. No, I pushed. Okay. Okay. Alright. Trying to activate the bishop pair. Okay, that's reasonable. Oh. Look at that queen maneuver. Look at this. My queen had to do a dance to come around here. Look at that. And then, what do we have here? Ah. Key check right here. But I don't know if this is exactly winning. Oh, duh. Because you have to block and then you get mated. I saw this when I was 800. Yeah, I didn't take. I delivered mate. Whoa, let's take a look. Let's take a look, because I obviously blundered, and I want to go over the opening a little bit. So, like, let's see what happens here. So, right away, they go for the pin, and then I play queen here. This is the mistake. I play queen here, and then here, and then only now, after moving the queen, do I challenge the bishop. And that opens the door to lose this pawn and then nasty tactics. So basically when the bishop goes here, it's defended. It's okay, so let's challenge it right away. Or let's protect like this, capture back, etc., etc. Not capture back right away because you'd have to deal with this, basically no matter what. But yeah, let's move on to the next game. All right. 3 blunders, 5 mistakes. We're on a roll here. All right. So Queen's Gambit accepted. Okay. All pretty normal stuff. So my opponent is going for a setup where they fianchetto both bishops. It obviously has its pluses and minuses. This is a really strong light squared bishop, but I've managed to clog up the dark squared bishop and also have good central control. Probably would say that this is better or equal-ish. Okay. So we've jumped in with the knight. We were double attacking the pawn. Then they pushed. So the knight's still defended. That's a good thing. We castle. Comes back. Very interesting setup. Like you have the bishop staring down the board and then these like pawns in this kind of like very slanted formation. Let's see what's going on. Okay. I like stopping the pawn and not letting them play that. Okay. Nothing that crazy. So this move defends the rook by letting the queen see it. Okay, I definitely hung a pawn. That's just what happened. I hung this pawn. I definitely have a good level of activity, though. And they would need to play this, in which I could capture and basically prevent the king from castling. Let's see what happens. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I don't know. I don't think that I sacked this pawn for activity, but I think I was thinking about this play, obviously, with the knight coming to the center. having ideas of hopping in. Let's see what happens. Okay. Um, we've got a triple attack on this, and I guess it's defended 3 times through the queen. Very interesting. So we took, 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 and took. So we've got this protected pass pawn. The queen's got an eye on it. We also, this pawn's hanging. So I would say that this is probably a positive transformation. Not to mention the fact that this rook is hanging. So if we go back here, actually, if we go back here, um, I could have taken right away with the knight. And my opponent probably wouldn't have seen that it's a discovered attack on the rook. And this knight is also not defended. So that's something that I had missed. But either way, it's still a positive transformation. So again, don't have to capture this knight. At this point, should still cash in on the rook with an attack on this knight and an attack on this pawn. So, I mean, promising position. These tactics are everywhere, but again, it's hard to see, especially when you're trying to stay solid. You're looking at the king. You're looking at your own pieces. You look at the fact that your rooks aren't doing anything. But that's the thing. Like, a lot of times when I was lower rated, I got so caught up on, like, principles, but ultimately, each and every position is its own thing. And that is the beauty and pain of chess. Okay, so let's do a castle and move the rook. Okay, so I'm not sure that I really like this transformation of the position, how we've played this, but I'm thinking at least if we trade off the rooks, we can probably hold this. So let's see. Okay, so let's do a quick material count. We'll just turn this into an endgame review. I'm destroying on the clock, 146. So right off the bat, I have an advantage in time, which is good. But let's count pawns. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my opponent's up a pawn, can potentially trade, and has pawns coming down this side of the board. Can't play that move, but can try to infiltrate on this side of the board. So definitely, I would say better for black. I mean, they're up a pawn, but I'm going to try to make it difficult, especially because they didn't take the opportunity to trade the bishop. And I just traded anyway, but at least it resulted in a pawn. So the idea behind this is I want to play this move, and make a queen. And my opponent wants to essentially make a queen of their own, going down the c-file. I'm not sure how much of importance it is to push this pawn, because it's blocked by this pawn. I think in an endgame situation, if you were to pick up this pawn, or for example, I have the king back here, the pawn here, my king's all the way over here, could potentially be bad. But let's look at what happened right away. The king goes back to try to defend. Let's see where I go. Okay, so king goes back up. I have a little bit of a wall here, but they could play this, and that would... All right, so now they can't play that. But now they have obviously a strong initiative pushing this pawn. All right, so we can give a check, and this will force the king here, 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 or here. Oh, yeah, I mean there too. Okay, I don't know about this one, because now I'm here. You can't go forward to make progress promoting this way, and I'm going to try and stop them this way. But I don't know. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we go up there, and now you have to play this move. It's the only move. Okay, there. And that is the blunder that loses the game. So I wasn't expecting to make this blunder here, but I have to play this move and this move and stay guarding these two pawns, because the moment I go above where this pawn has already been pushed and it's my opponent's turn, it's running away. So if you move one square above a pawn and the pawn can move next turn, you're not catching up. So let's go here, and that's what happened. Oh my gosh! Saved. No! No! Win this pawn first. Please win this pawn first. Why did I do that? Okay, so in this position I spent 1, so I move 1, 2, 3 to capture the pawn. This would be 1, 2. So moves are everything in chess. It's how the game is played. I think I should have gone b3, b4. All right, let's continue with this. All right, now I'm just ahead on time, and my opponent ran out on the clock, but this is simple. You just go here. The king can never attack a queen because the king can't approach it. The pawn cannot attack what's right in front of it. Then I could just bring my king around and scoop up the pawn and then deliver checkmate. Okay, so let's see the next game. 1,109 against 1,000. Honest chess player. That's a great username. 2 missed wins. Oh goodness. Okay, so the England Gambit, and this is like, so there's a clear line between like when I was playing d4 c4 and when I was responding to inaccuracies that my opponent was making in the opening. And oh, this hurts. This hurts. Why was I better when I was 700? Oh my gosh. Just take it. Just take it. Just take it. I spent 4 seconds and I didn't take it. Oh. Take it again! Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, so those are the 2 missed wins. Okay, instead of taking it, I gave it the pawn. Oh, okay. Alright, so we're trading. They didn't. What? Okay, the moral of the story is that take pieces when they're attacked by pawns, especially at this rating range. If they think that they're making a cool sacrifice, it doesn't work. Okay, it just doesn't. Let's keep going. Okay. Okay, so captures. Let's go around. All right, that's a fork. We actually took it. That's surprising, but we're completely winning now. We just have quite a large material advantage, and my opponent was caught up with the attack on the queen and didn't see that it would be mate because of this bishop and the pawn, and then a queen here covers here. So pretty quick game, but the most hilarious one so far. I'm not gonna lie. All right. Now we are on a game where I was rated 1200. So let's see what happens. So this is a game with the black pieces, and I played a 2 knights defense. So we could see a fried liver. Some opponents play this. Some opponents play this. Some opponents play this. Some opponents castle. So really a mixed bag here. Okay, we've got more knights on the board, and we've got a totally symmetrical position. Still totally symmetrical position. Okay, so I wasn't going for symmetry. I protected it this way. I don't know if I like it because it can kind of be chased out and then has to go back to a more passive square. Whereas if I had stayed flexible and played like this, I could back it up and keep it on this more active diagonal, transfer it to this diagonal. I don't know. We'll see. So bishop g5. Terrible. I don't want to. It's a double attack. Look, when the pin comes, I have to say, okay, what can my opponent do to put pressure on the pin? If they play this move, which I can't take them because of the pin, they have a double attack. I have a double defense, but the pawn has to capture first. because if the queen captures first, it gives a minor piece an opportunity to capture it. So it can't. It's like, nope, pawn. And then once you take with the pawn, you're opening up this side of the board for an attack. So, yep, had to take with the pawn. I knew that. And then, look at this. So, bishop gets an amazing square. The rook has to move to a more passive square. Walks into tactics regarding this. Opponent is simply looking to play this, even this, if somehow I can prevent the queen from coming here. Just a terrible position. So they jump away, but it doesn't even matter because here. So, you know, takes, but queen here, and that's it. That's all she wrote. So, you know, one tactic can completely lose the game in the opening. So, totally symmetric position, but you have to consider opening this side of the board up with this kind of pressure. This knight here and the queen, you know, the bishop opening here is definitely a tricky one, especially utilizing this pin. So definitely something to look out for. I would say that I shouldn't have played this move. I mean, I don't think that this move is great. And putting the bishop, spending time putting the bishop here. Maybe I should have just dropped back with this piece and then played this and then had like a slower game. But that's not what happened. This game, we're 1375, and boy was I just messing around this game because I don't even know what to say. 3 mistakes, 4 blunders, 2 missed wins. Yeah, let's see what happened here with the black pieces. Okay, so a Berlin defense. What's going on here? Okay, we have a rook coming to add some backup, or actually just protect that pawn. We're going to protect our own pawn. They're going to play this, which is a useful move because it prevents any of these pieces from coming to this square, unless if I want them to get taken. So then I castled. I got the knight out of here, not giving my opponent the option to ruin my pawn structure, thus enabling the moves c6 and c5. I have no idea if that's what I'm going to play. I'm giving you my own analysis as I'm thinking of it right now. Okay, so my opponent strikes in the center. I like this move a lot. You know, it's backed up adequately. I have a little bit of an awkward knight. This rook staring down the board, queen staring down the board, bishop's got pressure. I like it. King's castled. Took, moved back, and then knight out. Okay. Let's see what else is going on. Attack the bishop, bring the bishop back. Trying to transfer it to this diagonal. Checkmate dreams. Probably not going to happen. Alright, so I move the knight away as to avoid my pawn structure getting ruined. But now that I think about it, this, then I can move the knight. Okay, it's safe. I don't know if I saw that. Okay, they didn't play that, but now I'm inviting them to play this. And it's a completely different story. Because the knight can't move, and I have no like tempi on anything here. I just have to go here. If takes, then takes. They could take, and I could take, but they might also just take. Or no. Yeah. Let me take a look at this one. So if here, and here, and here, and here, and here, yeah, it could happen. It could happen, but that is not what happened. Let us look at what happened. We took, actually, let's go here so we can actually see what happened. So what? That's got to be a mistake. You probably should take with the pawn, but okay. Okay. Suddenly, the position has transformed into something that's pleasant for me. So it went from a blunder, but, you know, this attack here just moved but if takes and takes, I guess I could move my knight then. But But, you know, if you move back, I guess I have to jump back to a more passive square. You still maintain your positive position. But then how the position transformed when you take with the bishop, you know, it created a lot of pressure. You know, I want to probably get the bishop up and then the rook over somehow, but let's see how we played it. Okay, so punishing where the queen is. I'm probably going to come straight in and punish where the queen is again. Yeah, so right away, taking advantage of two queen moves where I could instantly win developing tempi. So queen goes here, develop while attacking. Queen goes here, develop while attacking again. And my opponent basically uses their moves to improve my position. All right, I like this. Attacking the undefended bishop. Let's see what I did with it. I moved it back. Pretty logical. Okay, that drops a pawn. All right. A little bit risky because, I mean, luckily if there's this, but a little bit of a riskier move than I probably would make nowadays. I don't like defend. So I gotta think more about what can my opponent do, because I don't like defending like this, because then if opponent plays this, I'm gonna lose this pawn. I should have defended like this. So we'll see. All right, I kind of go through those moves quick. I like this. Critical pawn break because the pawn is pinned. Ah, okay. So queen attacks the rook. Rook comes in, is defended and blocked. Let's see, because I'm allowing rook to d8 check. Rook to d7 check, which is what we see. And now there's no more rook checks, no more queen checks. We're threatening this. I'm not sure, though. Let's see how this ended. It probably ends... Oh, it does end in some type of mate. So we go in with the capture. But now we've got this, which is a problem. This is a problem. It's just more than I probably should have allowed. That's why. Okay, so I took with the queen. What's going on here? Okay. I took with the queen. I'm down. I traded a rook for a queen. But this pawn's defended. This pawn's defended. This rook's defended. The queen has no checks. The rook has no checks. And the next move is mate. Is it? Is the next move mate? What? Wait. Wasn't this mate? Oh, nice. Oh, oof, okay. I played it. I was like, wait, if I don't play mate, I'm just gonna lose. Like, I don't have enough material not to play it. Okay. I was really low on time. I made... I made a bunch of these moves in the course of like a few seconds, like not even 30 seconds. So it's not that bad. Okay. On to the next game. All right. So here we played a Sicilian defense, but we've got someone trying to mate us immediately. We played e6 to prevent that. Let's see what the opponent played. d3. Knight here, queen there. Okay, let's see anything else going on here. We castle. Standard Sicilian idea. Could also play this and then castle this way to basically just try and checkmate me. So I immediately strike in the center. This is like, I don't know how the computer views the dynamics of this position, but what I will say is I like that after my opponent pushes f4, getting aggressive, we strike back in the center. We look to open things up, see what happens. Okay. So I like this. Moves with tempo. Okay, so then my opponent goes kingside. Slightly less aggressive than going queenside. All right, so now we want to make some trades. Again, just open up mobility for my pieces. Okay, kick the knight out. And then this looks like a really great square for the knight. This is like definitely an outpost. They would have to trade one of their knights for it. Okay, so we trade queens, and then I put my knight on the outpost square. I bring my bishop up, develop it, connect rooks. Again, rooks attacking on open files down the board. All right. Good move. Not good move. I don't. I mean, I don't have the time. Not don't have the time. I could sit here and do it, but objectively, I don't know the evaluation of this position. But interesting move because I can't capture the knight. So let's see how this continued. Okay. All right. So attacking the knight, but my opponent's counterattacking the bishop. What did I just do? Oh. Oh. So I was thinking that this wins a pawn because now my opponent can capture the bishop and then I capture the knight and I took a pawn first. But here and then rook captures and then pawn captures and then rook captures, so it doesn't win a pawn. But it did win a pawn because they captured with the pawn. So that is a positive. I was down a pawn, but now it's tied in pawns. And then rook just infiltrating open file. This knight is a hero, like I said. I kind of took notice right away. It's an outpost square. And then later down the road on move 28, we've got a rook connecting to wreak some havoc. So I like this move, doubling up, not rushing to win a pawn, even though it is with check, so maybe it's the best move. Very interesting. I like that. So by playing this, I check and force my opponent up because the knight covers the square. Again, the knight is just a champion here. So yeah, my opponent has to go up, at which point now I offer a trade, trying to get more activity for my pieces. Captures, captures. And let's see what else we have. You know what I was thinking? My opponent had to go here. I wanted to explain this. Not here, because they need to defend this rook should I choose to capture like this. Okay, so now we trade, and I bring the rook. I don't give a check this time, and guaranteeing winning this pawn. I decide to try and win this pawn. All right. And now I could still give this check. This square is defended. The king could go here, but then, could win this pawn. We have this pawn. Just got to be careful. It's still relatively equal material. We just have really good piece activity. So again, that's like a good theme in chess is like piece activity. My pawn structure is a little bit all over the place, but these pieces are really active, and the king's having a lot of trouble. This is stuck defending this pawn, even though it's not really defending the pawn. Hence that knight move. But wait a second. Knight move. And then here. I guess they're trying to go here. But then if I play here... Is that what happened? No, I blundered it. Okay, I have 27 seconds. I was like, wait, what's going on? Okay, so I blundered it, but I'm still up a pawn. Now I'm targeting this pawn, and they don't have a way of defending it. So I'm going to win 2 pawns, but they can counterattack. I didn't look at that. So they can counterattack, meaning I'd only be up 1 pawn. We defend the pawn, but now there's a double attack. This pawn can be defended, but then I can't attack this pawn. So that's an interesting decision. I like the fact that I have an outside passed pawn, but then again, if they capture here, it's a question of my king is now obligated to come here and stop this. Or if they capture here and I capture here, I have to potentially come back and make sure that the knight's monitoring this and maybe try and win with this pawn, but That could potentially be a stretch. So this comes with check. I don't know how I'm really going to reroute to the passer in time, but we're both very low on time. And my opponent seemed overly fixated on stopping my play. Let's see this. Okay, so captures, and with check. Ah, because it comes with check. So because I can make this check here, and my opponent can come closer to this pawn, I push. And now no matter what, this pawn is faster than this pawn. So the king has to come over here. This pawn is looking to come up the board. All the while, I'm looking to rotate the knight back at some point, and defend. So I think I misevaluated based on what I said earlier, because this check is critical. The king can't step one square behind the pawn, and the pawn's allowed to move next. However, they played captures, and I lost on time. But I would probably go here, they would go there, I would go here, they would go here, I would go here, they would go there, and I would lose. So then I would have to go here, and then they would go there. I would go here, they could take, I could go here, they could go here, I could go here, and take, and this is losing. This is completely lost. So what did I have to do? This one's a doozy. I need to brush up on endgames. Okay. Next, we are going to look at a 1500 rated game. So we have e4, and then it looks like I'm going to play like some sort of fianchetto defense. Okay, so moving all queenside pieces. I can't really play this move because I move the knight, but it's fine. Okay, so now we're rotating around. This is all pretty normal. All pretty normal. Yeah, okay. Pretty equalish position. Everything's defended. Another trade. Okay, another trade. Okay, so it looks like we're transitioning into an endgame. Oh, that blunders a pawn. My opponent got fixated on the idea that it's good to win tempi, developing tempi on my queen, but they weren't thinking about all my queen moves being me taking their pawn, which happened 3 times in a row. Okay, so now we're just in an endgame where we're up 3 pawns, but all the heavy pieces are on the board. So 100% winning, but definitely tricky. We lost a pawn in that exchange right here. So we have here, I had to move the queen because I allowed too much in allowing this rook to come here. And then once the queen moves, double attack on this pawn. So can capture the rook, and the queen can recapture either rook, and they chose to recapture the rook with check. Okay, and then they infiltrate with the other rook. So I'm 2 pawns up, but my opponent is getting compensation in the form of activity. But after being able to trade the rook, which again might not have been the best move for my opponent to allow, it just goes back to being completely winning. And trading queens is not something that you want to do in a position where your opponent's up 2 pawns. You want to keep the queen on the board and constantly threaten everything and the king. It's really the only way to hold. Because now I'm just 2 pawns up and we're only playing with pawns. So eventually your king is going to get overloaded, and that's just what happens. So I can go over the endgame here. So 2 pawns up. Step 1, get your king to the center of the board without blundering any of your pawns in the meantime. Okay, step 1's been achieved. We've got the king to the center. We're opposing the other king from coming forward. Step 2, if you have a pawn majority, on the other side that the king's on, start pushing it. So that's what we're doing. Looking to create the break that does a passed pawn. And that's what we do. This move prevents us from coming this way, but luckily the pawn blocks this, so the king has to step back. This is a really good kind of fortress of keeping the king from coming forward. So we push the pawn. We have this nice little pawn wall here. And now this is just completely winning. This pawn's running down the board. We can just walk over and win this pawn, and neither of these two pawns are capable of breaking past these pawns. So that's this game. All right, we are on to the final game. So let's see what happens. D4 again. Now we have a very interesting variation, trading a lot of pawns, trading some pieces, trading queens, a lot of simplification. I don't castle here because my opponent is so my opponent is so underdeveloped that it really doesn't make a difference. Like, they can't move the bishop, it's not allowed. The rook can only go to squares that don't matter. The rook can only go to squares that don't matter, and this bishop is covering where this bishop would go, unless if the bishop goes here. So that's kind of why I moved my king up. I figured get the bishops out this way. At least that's what I was thinking. I figured, all right, we push the pawn up, captured more simplifications. Allowing this, not really sure if I should. But you know what? They didn't play it. And now we're just improving the position. So all of our pieces are on squares that are good. There's not a whole lot of play on the king side, but we're doing a good job not being in the line of fire of these bishops, because that could be really bad. So this is like the critical moment in the game in capturing here. My opponent captured here. And the reason is it forces me to capture with the bishop and move it back to the square that the bishop started on. The reason is because if after I capture the free pawn and they capture with the rook, if I capture like this, the free pawn turns into a lost piece, and then I lose the knight here. So that would look something like this, 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 and then this, which would be completely losing. But that is not what happened. We had c takes with the bishop, and now the knight stays defended. And then my opponent could have made a double attack here, but then I would have played this, or potentially even this, actually, because my rook's defended, so this pin doesn't really come with as much sting, because the knight can move. It's not really pinned. So then I capture anyway, improve my piece, and now we're just a pawn up in an endgame with an outside majority. This bishop can't hit these pawns right now. If my rook ever gets to this rank, this bishop is almost as powerful as a rook, honestly. So I infiltrate here, basically ensuring that I'm going to win a second pawn, because the bishop's under attack. It doesn't have to move, but if the rook goes to defend this pawn, it doesn't defend the bishop. The pawn can go forward, and the rook can go forward. Bishop can defend, which is probably what happens. But still, I think once I get the bishop out more, bring my king in, would be still winning. And that happened, okay. I'm not looking at the annotations on the side, by the way, if I'm clicking back to a certain position. I like this because we're limiting king mobility. You know, I can play rook here and wreak absolute havoc. Kind of. It's really just a check. So, you know, even when you feel like you're better, you have to react to your opponent's moves, you know. I was thinking, okay, I can't blunder this pawn. I got to move back. And sometimes that's just how it goes. Okay, so my opponent had to give up this pawn, because by giving up this check, if they still defend the pawn, we win the rook because it's a discovery. So just very interesting pattern here with the rook. And then also, we're threatening to win this rook here. We're simply threatening to win that rook. And my opponent didn't see it. So we give a check, it's not defended, and we take the rook. But I didn't see that, okay. Oh, I missed it. I probably missed it in the game too. I probably was like, oh, I'm going to win a rook. See, some things don't change, but now I have a lot of activity. So we'll see what happens here. Okay, all right. So that's another piece. No, what is going on? I completely made like a bunch of endgame mistakes into having an extremely drawish position, completely equal material. Now even losing because I'm gonna lose this pawn. Okay, still pretty drawish because equal pawns, equal pawns. All right, we push. Okay, maybe trying to go here. Maybe okay, we give a check. Oh, and that's it. We have so the rook wasn't in time to give checks on the king. This here is too powerful because we have this check. If here, we're going here, rook might go here, but we can even give a check. Like just get it, try and get it to the end here, and I think that's pretty much what happens. Yeah, and then you got to stop the pawn, or else it's mate, and then it's still mate. Um, so just an advantage here. So um, definitely not the cleanest endgame, but I like the idea actually of bringing the king all the way in and then taking here, and then having this complete control with the pawn going up. It's just a lot more active. The rook being in front of this pawn has to move um, to even get to check my king, or it has to move directly out of the way. Then it has to move 4 squares. So, just an advantage here. When the rook goes to capture this pawn, and I go to attack this pawn, and we trade, now it's in a bad square capturing it. So it captured into a bad square, and my king captured into a good square. And now the rook wastes a tempo going to a more active square. We played that, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we had here. Oh, we played king takes. Duh. Rook. Oh, bishop there. That's probably the key move that wastes time. I feel like you have to move the rook out of the way right away. That way, if here, at least you can give a check and go here and here, you know. And you could still play this and this and this and I don't know this, but even this wouldn't be great, or wouldn't be great. I guess you'd have to defend. You could still win this pawn. I think it's winning because the rook's behind the pass pawn. Just spitballing ideas here. It's the last game. Might as well go all in with the analysis. But I hope you guys enjoyed. This is probably going to be a longer video than usual, but super happy to be bringing you guys some more chess.